I would like to call the Michigan City regular tree board meeting Wednesday, July 10th. Call to order. Roll call, please.
Connie Anderson here. Barb Ginther here. Bill Ginther.
Present.
Laura Henderson here. Laura Clark.
Present.
Johnny Stimley.
Here.
Mick Wolf.
And I'm also present.
Everyone's present.
Everybody been able to take a look at the meeting minutes from June?
Move for approval. Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
The meeting minutes for June have been approved. Okay, this Secretary Treasurer's report ending June 30th.
Move for approval.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
The Secretary's Treasurer's report ending June 30th has been approved. Claims for July. That is Debbie Wilson for her secretarial services and $200. Board member compensation for attendance.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Claims for July have been approved. Communications. Any kind of communications? Debbie, any kind of communications? All right. Moving down the list here. Committee reports. That's the outreach team. That's myself, Laura Kalk, and Laura Henderson. Education, gardening, landscaping, monthly news and tips, and public relations, calendar events, and the Arbor Day items. Besides, it's hot out and it seems to stop raining.
Yes, water things, people, please. A quick reminder on that, just make sure a lot of plants get really stressed this part of the year with the extreme heat, especially that jump. So just make sure and, watch that watering. Most of the plants will show you and tell you. Specifically, like hydrangeas are really good indicators if they're in your garden and they start to do the weeping. It's a good sign that the rest of your garden is possibly heading into a stressful situation as well. We've been seeing some lawns with some crazy fungal and burnout, and so just pay attention to that as well. There's a lot of systemic products that are out there that can be used for both insecticidal and fungal issues to help resist that, and a lot of very natural products as well. And just a heads up, with this heat, with a lot of the rain that was prior, a lot of weeds are growing really fast, and so people are doing their general spray outs with their weed and grass killer of choice. And you want to be really careful with using products when it starts to get over 80 degrees. There's a couple of reasons. One is there's an evaporation issue, and when it comes to, kill out products and things like that, it can evaporate into the air and go off into trees and unfortunately burn them and shrubs and surrounding plants. So really pay attention to those details on the back of those bottles and apply appropriately and in proper temperatures. And sometimes people are even doing applications maybe later in the day when the sun isn't so intense, because even with a lot of the horticultural oils and things like that, neem oils, it can magnify the heat and also burn your plants. So, there's different people that have been doing the deer products or maybe treatments, and so be really aware of that. You want to do them because they're going to be helpful to the plants, but maybe think about a shadier time of the day, a cooler day when you're doing your applications.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Anybody want to respond on any of these other bullet points? Okay, I'll move down the list. Okay, just to try to, a lot of these things are the forester reports here, the city park trees. Does anybody have anything to add? Okay, city street trees, grant applications, purchasing tree planting, planning department. I have not heard anything or seen anything that has anything to do with us. Urban forest management plan, that's the forester's role. City street tree designation, or city designation maintenance, that's the forester, which
We're set on that.
we're set on that.
Right,
So,
that's what I thought.
and goals and fundraising efforts. I know we were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, just Johnny and I had a couple times we've had an opportunity just to chit chat back and forth about some ideas and things, and we first of all, I believe you're working on the plat itself as to how many trees and that sort of thing. Well, we sort of thought maybe that the first step in our fundraising goal would be to get trees purchased and planted because they're going to take the longest, you know what I'm saying? We need to get that started.
Yeah.
Right, and so we sort of came across an idea of possibly, well, he works with the high school kids for the he's got a program going, and the idea came to me a little bit about the possibility of a fundraiser whereby people can donate money in the name of someone. Like my husband, I would like to have a specific fruit tree, well, his favorite tree was apples, and donate money to purchase that tree to be placed in that, you know. So we sort of thought that might be something we could work on that is pretty easy. I mean, you know, we just need to get the word out and, you know, advertise it and things like that. But we don't know how many trees.
Yeah, with that small amount of space in there, I'm going to be finishing the design. I've been working, focusing on my main season right now. I know. But I'm actually about ready to, you know, I guess dive into that one. But with that amount of space out there, with how large those trees get, it's going to be under a dozen trees to make sure that they have the proper amount of space in that environment, because there's already a lot of existing trees, and I think that's one thing we're going to have to talk about. So it's going to be under a dozen, and we actually already have trees that we have ready for donation already, so they're already being donated. But what you're going to need is the labor, you're going to need soil, and you're going to need all the other things that are going to go into that area. So whereas I think the tree sponsoring is a wonderful thing, and it's still something that we should focus on, because each one of those trees is going to need to be installed and proper soil for that. And
can they be adopted? You know, like the
in regards to the continuous care.
Right. So basically, if someone say I donated the money for a tree in the name of my husband, and then basically, you know, I would adopt that tree more or less and care for it. So that's
or support the aid of it.
Right.
That's wonderful.
That's the lines we sort of thought, and then I thought too that would be a good project for your kids. You know, in them getting involved with it as far as the care of the trees and you know the work. You know, kids are great workers if you can corral them.
The sponsoring and adopting could include, you know, they're going to need yearly care, and they're going to need regular, you know, support, I guess you could say, to establish.
Exactly.
So
which hopefully would offset some of the cost of, you know, this project.
Absolutely.
If we had people, and I do believe there are a lot of people that would like to donate their time and that sort of thing. So you're thinking basically it would be adequate 10 to 12 trees would be.
Yeah, and the reason I'm saying this is because those trees, some of the ones that I'm putting in the design are also, they're already more of a columnar tree, so it's going to save a lot of space. But some of those fruit trees can get so big, and so that's why I'm being really real.
We want to project, I mean, long term.
I would say 10 to 12 would be the way to go, but then there's going to be other really fun things that are going to be incorporated in that, which we want to talk about a little further, and that are going to be some planting boxes and things like that are also going to be involved. And so those can also, or certain benches and arbors that'll go along with that. And so those are also things that can be memorial pieces, the way that I'm designing it. Because the boxes are going to have built-in benches.
So we can name plate and things like that. And I think that for this project, I think because so many people in Michigan City love the zoo and that they grew up with the zoo, I think that would be a really good way to incorporate the city itself, you know.
Well, years ago we had we did a tree for Joe LaRocco, who was the past mayor. I don't think the tree is there anymore. It was taken out. I don't know whatever happened to it. It was put in kind of in that turnaround area, but I think the redesign,
Oh,
in the park.
Station or is it, in the park?
Yeah,
It was in park property, but it was in the,
right.
I had heard it was taken out or something had happened to it. But to your, yes, and it is a great idea. It works great for, different people. They do a lot of that memorialization in trees.
And they're looking for spots to support.
Right, exactly. And then I also am excited about the kids that Johnny works with because, our generation, we like that sort of thing. But I would like for them to learn to like that too, with them helping with this and all that.
Yeah.
So that's what we were hoping for. And
To get them inspired.
right, do you have you thought far enough ahead as to what type of trees?
Yeah, we actually already have. There's a couple of different columnar apple that are going to be out there. We're going to
Okay.
do some cherry and some
Okay.
plum, and there's some apricot that were also
Okay.
donated.
Okay. all right.
And as far as that, I'm going to expand on that a little bit more, but those are ones that are already ready to go
Okay. Good.
in, available and already donated.
Wonderful.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're
And-
young enough that the kids could be involved with that planting, but they're mature enough that they're already showing fruit.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
so-
That's
and if there's
wonderful.
anything else, those just happen to be ones that were already a part of it. But if there's anything else that you guys would like to see, I am totally open.
So they are already donated?
They're already donated,
That's wonderful.
several of each. So
That's wonderful.
lot have plumbing?
We'd have to look at that and get that
Well,
integrated in it.
that's the great thing about this project because we could have a fundraiser forever. Every year.
we need to think about and
Each
all
year.
of those things. And some of the base things are actually going to be that's going to be an important thing for establishment of
Water,
the plant.
right.
That's something I always say before we move forward with the planting is making sure that that's established.
That everything is established. Can we
So
put a
there's
well there?
successful.
Can we do well?
We're looking into that. We're looking into all those things.
And see, that in itself is a project, but Johnny and I were talking basically the fact is, first things first, that's really, I guess, where we should focus on our fundraising right now is basically that type, preparing it for the trees and the trees and then watering the trees and that sort of thing. So, and that, that could be just a yearly ongoing project of things that we decide to do out there, Did we decide to do a garden? I can't remember what
Well, we
talked
were mulling back and forth about that, and that's because of the talk that you had that I wasn't present for that meeting. So I have to look through all those
Yeah.
notes in regards to the pros and cons of having a garden and what you can have and can't because of liability. Isn't that right?
Well, I was thinking more in terms of like pumpkins and things like that.
Being non-edible, well, not
right. Yeah,
actually.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, pumpkins,
Which are still edible, but but not.
The
So
idea
I was going to do a squash.
It was great itself. We just couldn't get any state help because of the liability.
Right.
But it's not saying that something couldn't go on.
That we
which,
couldn't fund it, or
through other divisions or other ways, other
Right.
means.
I honestly think, myself, and just from being involved with other fundraisers over the years and things, I honestly feel that once we get this presented out to the public and they know what's going on there, I think it's going to take off and take care of itself. I really do. I think people, it's a wonderful idea. When I first heard Johnny talk about it, I thought, oh, that's a great idea. I mean, seniors can be involved in something like that, I mean.
Well, you
Which
had-
one of you ladies went to the Stewart? Okay. No, they got a volunteerism type of thing. That's where the tree store program would help overlap a little bit of this as far as finding, volunteers to do something like that. You just have to dive into that, but you can report on your little deal here in a minute. Okay.
And I really hope to tap into the volunteering aspect because I think people, when they become involved with these types of things, that's how it grows. That's how, so I'm hoping volunteering is going to be a large part of it. So, but that was our discussion. So we're moving along with it. And do you think there's a possibility, if we put trees this fall, we have to have water though, don't we?
Well, it helps when you're heading a little closer to fall if you do more October, because you're helping take advantage of the natural rains that will come, but that's not promised ever.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Unfortunately, right? And so, that being said, we have to pay special attention to that. There's a couple people that I do know and that will have some water sources, like water trucks and things like that, if it needs to be done a couple times a week.
Before, right.
Yeah, and
okay.
instead of, planting them midsummer where it might need a little bit more, maybe planting them closer to fall so it would be less need for that labor.
Well, how late can we plant the fruit trees?
I wouldn't recommend pushing anywhere past, I would say, the third week of October, because you really want to give them time to properly kind of set a little root, establish, and get happy in there before we head into dormant time.
Well, I wouldn't think you need that much water. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Just actually, as it heads to that time, it usually cools off. I'm hoping we're at the beach, don't get me wrong, but it usually cools off by that time, and you see rain.
Okay, and possibly, perhaps you could check into what it would cost to install a well.
That's actually those types of structural things are going to be really important to look at before you do any planting and to have. So I know that by the time, honestly, it's probably going to be September is when I'll finish the plan. Mm-hmm. And so then you can move forward accordingly as needed. But I've got a lot of really, fun ideas in mind of it, which is gourd arbors and things like that. We are trying to stay away from the bee and edible thing. But if you want to go in that direction, and if you guys are open to that, if that's not a restriction, those planter boxes can have, different edible things and garden things and things like that.
That's what I was trying to think of too, just vining type things that basically take care of themselves pretty much would be pumpkins, and I know
pumpkins and gourds and
that would be but so
which is a part of the structural setup I already have on the design.
So are we inclined to think that possibly we could plant some trees this fall?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. As long as we feel that we can jump on it without contradicting eventually getting water in there, if that makes sense. I'd hate to plant them and then uproot them. I'm really big about not.
The thing of it is, we're way ahead as far as the trees are concerned, because I was thinking we might have to do that one. But we are ahead of that. Mm-hmm. So the next one, obviously, I would think would be funding a well. You know what I'm saying? So we need to know what to expect as far as cost-wise on that. Mm-hmm. And then you have the plans for the lot and everything. So you know what I'm saying?
We can incorporate that in with it.
Exactly.
And adjust as needed. So I think that's one of the most important things to focus on, if we can figure that out, is the water source and how it would have to be set up, because if that'll affect the design in any way, I can change it.
Right.
Is there not city water available there?
There's a house. Isn't there a house right in front of it?
I'm sure there's city water.
So we don't have to dig a well.
Water.
No, I'm sure there is. I mean, I'd have to find out for sure, but I can't see it not having city water.
What would we estimate city water to keep those plants alive?
Well, we'd have to look into what it takes to get it to there, and if that's a possibility that the city is, willing to make effort on first. So
we'll check those two things out. So that's our next project.
I think that's our next goal. We got it. Sounds good.
All right.
Think about pollinator garden there.
Oh yes. Actually, that's already a part of those shenanigans. Definitely.
I didn't hear what you said, Laura. About
definitely.
Pollinator.
Definitely. Yes, definitely.
Okay, that's mine.
All right.
Alrighty. Old business. I guess we're still looking to get all the attorney there, the workman's comp insurance application for planting tree lawns. I thought we already had something like that already drawn up, and
we do, but that had a lot to do with the forester.
So that's still tabled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we in old business? Yeah. Is there any follow-up on that nursery out there on 2? I mean, did we just lose out totally on all those?
They officially closed, didn't they?
I don't know what they did yet.
Yeah.
I assume we lost that opportunity.
I assume we lost that opportunity also. It wasn't taken advantage of because of
the changeover.
Yeah.
But we'll find other opportunities to make use of that.
Okay.
Is there anything that we need to work on to do that?
We just need to find a direction that we're going. Okay. Real quick, I just want to turn it over to you to tell us about your tree store, because it sounded like
I didn't prepare to
our
talk.
old president, your father really wanted to get something like that going, and it was a great idea back then, and I'm glad you took it up. So I'm just
And
interested.
Melissa was there with me. So,
You get to meet Melissa, and you get to meet
yeah,
her.
yeah. So it was a great thing. It was 2 days for a whopping cost of $30. They fed us lunch both days, so
Yeah.
basically a free program.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can remember what all we learned. Well, we practiced planting a tree with a demonstration and techniques for planting it correctly and all of that. So, of course, it was easy because the ground where they dug the hole was nice and clean and ready to go. It wasn't like the kind of ground I did.
Yeah, really.
Prepped, huh?
Where it's an archaeological project. But anyway. So, yeah, we learned a lot of stuff, and I have a whole book full of stuff, and I should have brought it with me next time.
Next meeting, yeah.
Next time I'll bring it.
Excited to hear that.
Yeah.
That sounds
And
like a great
I highly
program.
recommend it if you've
Yeah.
got 2 days. And
Now,
it's every
what
year.
was the name of the meeting?
It's Tree Steward Program. It's given by the DNR.
Okay.
They do it pretty much every year in several different places in the state. And they've done it at Portage a couple of times, and that's where I took it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that-
So,
Alrighty. Well, I applaud you for going out there and broadening your
great fun.
horizons.
Yeah.
Great
I'm excited to hear about your update.
yeah.
So,
I'm a big one of those.
alrighty. New business.
Oh, old business, I'm so sorry. I did speak with Mickey Gallus. She is totally on board. I didn't feel that the extreme heat was an appropriate time to plant
Yeah.
large oaks, but I also would really like for you to meet me and Mickey over there. She's totally on whatever we need to give her a little guidance on where those should go in the amount of area that she has there. So she's totally in, but I feel that it's a better time for her to do the planting closer to September, October than right now. And that way she can obtain that size of tree. It's hard to find such a large tree like that at a lot of the nurseries right now. So, food for that.
Are they
She's on board.
able to water? I mean, are they just planting? Hopefully they're not.
She is able to. There's going to be a transplanting, I think, of an existing tree on her property that she'll have to do to be able to make room for these oaks. And so that's one thing that I'd like to meet Mick over there and discuss.
Well, and the thing is, that, if she's
So
not
that
really
limits
a tree person, she may not realize that she probably could wait until October.
Oh, we've spoke about it.
Yeah,
She's
okay.
completely on board and wants to follow through with everything promised. And
I thought she would be.
I just personally had a conversation with her. It was extreme heat, like when we were even talking about it.
Yeah.
And I want her to plant the right trees in the right spots, and we need to have a discussion about that at her residence with the space that is there and talk about that,
Oh, that's good.
or what to do, and make a decision, if you don't mind, if you can fit us in your schedule. I think it would be the best solution.
Alright, Laura, we'll talk about that in
Okay.
our off time. Okay, new business. Any new business? I think this is probably the appropriate time to talk about this, the direction of the future forester. These are my own comments, not necessarily any of the board here itself, but when we started here with Frank, we were dealing with Frank over here that had the forestry degree, and he paid his degree and what he was paid, he paid off in spades from the day he started. Now, the last couple of people, we're moving down the proverbial, letter U or something like that. And we got a person who was kind of in the middle, and The last two we're moving over here. They're all spreading, and they're pushing this vector control type of thing. This last person, Melissa here, she had other training and other disciplines. I didn't see any training coming toward the forestry end of the whole deal, except when she came to there, which that is very basic training. It says in our ordinance what the basics are going to be for a new forester recruit. I think a letter should be written to the mayor and to Mr. Zahner on the standards that he needs to type of follow if he's going to use equivalent experience. We need to know what the equivalent experience. Horticulture, which is Laura's specialty, is different than arboriculture. It's a right and a left deal, okay? Because the person who's got a green thumb, which is great, you know, they're one up, but you know, you're dealing with a lot different caliber here, okay? I think the city is looking down the wrong avenue to fill this position. I think they should be looking at the top as the forester to the top and the vector control on the bottom. I don't see these two jobs ever being cohesively working together. Okay, it's usually when vector control is doing something, it's, you know, they're the ones that are kind of like the ace in the hole. Something happens, they're doing the trying to cover all the bases. Well, the forester's got to do that because it's usually, let's say when the stuff is hitting the fan, you know, that one person can't do it all. And there's not enough associates for that one person to cover all those issues.
Agreed.
And now I know we talked about when we did write some personal letters to the mayor that the forester should be a whole separate job opening. And that is 100% true. But on the other side, you know, I know that there's restrictions on cash and stuff like that. I know all about it, hear all about it. But if the city's gonna go down that route, they're gonna have to look at the forester to be the upfront position, not the third position in line. Because when we looked at the job opening, it was vector control, ordinance officer. I wouldn't want that job for $41,000 if you gave me a Cadillac and this and that and the other thing and 10 guys. It's not going to pay for itself. $41,000 is barely going to get you on the top of the list for a forester.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was 49. It's still not enough.
Johnny, the money that we've been given, the $500,000, right? Or
50,000.
I'm sorry, 50,000. Is that a yearly ongoing? Or is that in the budget now?
It's in the budget yearly.
Is there any way, as a board, we could basically, 50,000 is not going to pay for someone, but I'm saying, is there any way we can take some of that money and sort of put our 2 cents in that we really feel that we need a forester and basically up their salary?
I don't think you want to use it for salary.
I don't think it's a salary.
No.
Frank came to us.
Subsidize.
Frank came to us on a grant from the state that was supposed to be the first year the state paid for it, and every year after that, it's slowly until the city absorbed that position as a full-time position. You know, the city is already kind of neglecting that promise that they made to the state.
Well, there are just all sorts of grants out there for positions. You know what I'm saying? It's just a matter of us finding or tapping into And again, I don't know if it would be a substantial grant that would actually draw somebody, but hopefully we could put input into the fact that we just want them to be a forester, not, and this grant pays their salary for that and not doing 2 or 3 other jobs,
Well, that's why I think a letter along with it's out there. I saw Debbie was nice enough to pass it along a couple months ago, the actual reading in the ordinance where it describes, what the forester's duties are and what the applicant needs to be. I think that has to be brought up in the forefront and sent to this hiring board or people to do this type of interviewing.
Actually, the tree board is supposed to be involved in that.
And I see that, but
yeah, part of it.
I don't see that happening. I mean, it's very discouraging.
Yeah.
And I was very discouraging how this last go around has gone. I mean, I could very easily deal with. We had Amanda, which was. She was getting going. We had Adam. I saw some promise in there, but things went different ways. Like I said before, you're talking 2 different cards. A forester is going to be way out of the other side of the spectrum than a vector control officer. I think the city would be better off hiring somebody within to hire morale for a vector control officer such as Dave Moreland was back in the day. He was a lifer for Michigan City and he did a great job. Unfortunately, you're not going to get a lifer of a forester. Unless maybe there's somebody out there that just graduated from Purdue in forestry or Michigan State or one of those that lives here in Michigan City. I urge them to apply, but
Johnny,
I don't see it.
Do you think, is there, and I'm asking because I don't know, I'm just bringing it up. Could we or should we put some pressure on, somewhere?
We have to because we've tried to be nicely doing it, and it has gotten us nowhere.
Mm-hmm. And who do we put pressure on? Do we put it on?
You got to do it with
the council, the mayor,
and Mr. Zonder, whoever is for HR. And that's got to be probably the 3 leading. That we have issues, and it's in writing. Ordinance is a law, is the rules to follow, the guideline. And if you're not going to follow the guideline, then what is it to have a tree board? Because we're getting treated like the underhand stepchild.
We
and I'm not into
have
that
to address the entity that can solve the problem, not just.
You can't the top man.
Who is the entity? Can we?
The mayor.
Pardon?
How about the mayor?
Well,
Everything stops with the
then
mayor.
how do we go about doing that?
Maybe we should request the mayor and Bob Zonder be at our next meeting.
Yeah,
Sounds
what
good.
can
But
we
he's going
do?
to hire somebody by then.
Well, but even if they hire somebody, the problem is still there that needs to be addressed.
Right.
The
You
jobs
hire
need to
somebody.
be separated.
Right, you're hiring somebody and you're expecting them to be all these things, and we're suffering because you pull them over here to pull grass, like you said, or you pull them over there. And my question is basically if we're going to get up in arms over this, then we need to address the person or the chain there that can actually we can talk to, we can explain the situation, and hopefully get some results on that.
Can we call a special meeting of the tree board?
Yeah.
I would be
along
happy to see a
with,
special tree board meeting with
the
some
mayor and
applicants.
Zonder and maybe the head of HR, whoever.
Is there a protocol that you would recommend us
Yeah.
going through
Yeah.
to make sure that we can maybe arrange something to communicate?
should we try to?
Is it just the business
Well, I would like to
protocol
see it in
first,
writing.
an
I would
email,
like
or
to-
in
Should we
writing?
try to do this before they hire someone?
I would like a letter to be
That's why a
written
special meeting would
in
have
the
to
next
I
couple
know,
days.
I know,
Yes.
yeah. But we have to make sure they can cut, you know.
My advice would be to write a letter, put the ordinance right in the letter, and tell them you'd like to have a special meeting in the next
address-
couple days, or first of the
Prior
week,
to-
prior to hiring
Yeah.
a forester.
Yeah, I think
And
that's good.
and you attach it to the
Is this-
mayor and you attach it to Bob.
Do we still have that? This is the
I'll
tree
have to double
board
check that.
section
And you also want to do, like you said, in the next week or so, because I think they're making out the budget for next year already.
Right.
And those would be the two that you'd want to
Who
talk
works
to.
on the budget?
The budget is the department heads will work on the budget.
So Zonder would be one of them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then it would go to the mayor for his approval. Then the final approval would be through the city council.
Now, do you feel that Zonder would respond?
I have not been lucky with him at all.
That's what I'm saying. That could be a problem there. If Zonder just says to the
That's
mayor,
why we
I
need-
can't make a meeting, I can't, you know, what are we gonna do? with
Well,
that?
I'm the liaisons to the tree board, so yeah, when you get the letter, just send it over to me and I'll attach it to the
Okay,
Thank you, Jenny.
to
thank
the
you.
right people, and if you want to put a date for the meeting, or give a couple of dates when you would want to meet, and I'll see if they're available, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to meet with the tree board.
The section here that's in the ordinance is section 102-34. City tree board duties and responsibilities, and then down there we have the city forester, tree board, pretty much lays it out. I just think we gotta start moving that pendulum back into our favor.
Well, we just have to make them know that we don't come to these meetings and just, you know, we're hoping to accomplish here, you know.
And like you said, when you start different programs, you know, they did do the appropriation for $50,000. Every time one of us tries to work, or I try to work with them, we get a new forester, and it's just like,
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
we probably made, well, with the Port County Nursery offering, and that was, we could have really
Look what we
tripled our
lost.
money,
Look what we
our
lost.
investment. Now we're probably going to have that money reappropriated somewhere, or
Yeah.
and the
how they do the shell game a little bit.
And the first question they're gonna ask me during budget hearings is, we gave you this 50,000, why didn't you do anything with it?
And the
Well,
clarification.
there's
And I know
a
that's what they're gonna say, I mean, that's what I would say, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So,
can't retain a forester.
so yeah, just,
So who wants to write this letter? Somebody want to work with me on it?
Laura,
I'm terrible
We got
at writing letters, so.
Laura, I would love to read over and put my 2 cents into
no,
it.
Laura,
that-
we'll take care of it.
Well, I think that is something that we probably all should sign it.
Yes.
We just had to do a letter for our historic.
So we'll draft
Yes.
something and send it around.
Yeah, sounds great.
I think everybody needs to sign it.
Yes.
And let's try and get a meeting like within the next, say,
Right.
2 weeks.
Right.
No,
Yeah, we have to next
Yes.
week so that
Yeah.
we can ready it for,
Right.
before they make, any of those moves.
Yes.
Well, and Johnny,
On the
my
budget.
response to that, the money, we just simply, through all of us, a meeting or whatever, we just need to let them all know that we're trying to be good sponsors of the money we have been given. And we can't even do that. We can't,
and they'll understand.
They
Yeah.
will, they will. It's clear everybody's trying to get their footing in. It's all about proper communication. There's a
Right.
lot to cover in the city.
right.
And so it's just all about proper communication. And
Yeah.
thank you, Jenny, for the guidance on that. I think
Yes.
that's like a perfect way to.
So in less than
Certain-
3 years, we have
certain-
lost 4 foresters.
In
I
3
mean,
years.
certain department heads should realize that, you know, there is a wealth of knowledge sitting here at this table that they can very easily and very readily available just by asking.
Yeah.
And if you can't, you know, unfortunately one hand has to wash the other when it comes down to some of this. And, you know, it's getting depressing, and the way I'm looking at it. I mean, we have great ideas, you know, but
Oh, we're spending our
the
meals.
true mission is not being performed. All right,
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay, so we've decided we're going to put a letter together. You two, we're all going to sign it, and we would like to have a meeting within, what, the next 2 weeks, or
I say
prior
even
to?
before that.
Yeah. Next week.
I can give them a heads up
Okay.
and say we're putting a letter together and we'd like to be part of the hiring process. I can do that. I can give them a call tomorrow. But that's what the board wants.
Yeah,
But hey, someone's got to fire the rocket over the bow first.
yeah, I mean.
When they start budget hearings next week?
No, not until I believe it's September sometime. So
But they'll be working.
But they're working.
I read something in the
Yeah,
paper
Yeah,
they
they're
started.
working on it, so you want to
Yeah.
make
yeah, I
sure
know
you
they're
get
working
it.
on it.
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
But just, you know,
The sooner the better.
to your Johnny, and to the rest of the general council, you know, before you know, Frank's day, I don't think anybody was on that council when Frank was. He paid off in grant money because he knew how to do it, and he was taught how to do it.
Yeah.
So that's why
No, like
partial
I said, all it takes is one grant for.
Oh, yeah.
But he had like 3 or 4
Yeah,
of them.
exactly. The
Fucking
paper.
stuff was flying.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right.
Any other new business? Any board comments? Any public comments? No public here this evening. Next meeting day is scheduled for August 7th. Anybody have any conflicts or issues?
Before we adjourn, maybe we should look at our calendars to see when a good day would be for a meeting or get together or something.
For this meeting here, I'm probably good any other day except the Wednesday.
Not a Wednesday.
Well, with the email, the letter, you can give me a few different dates too, and then I'll forward it over.
But
I have golf on
She has
Tuesday,
golf
so,
on Tuesday.
you know, that's, I could miss that if,
are we talking
We
about a
have
day
to.
meeting, or are we talking about?
yeah, I'm,
Most likely, they probably would want.
Say the word and I'll be there.
Yeah, I mean, is that, you know, if they suggest a 2:00 meeting in the afternoon or something like that, I mean, we're
Can
open to
everybody do
that.
that?
I can go anytime, it doesn't matter if I miss golf or not.
Yeah,
Usually the later the better, but I mean, I can do it if I have to.
okay.
Same situation.
If you want to facilitate the meeting time, would be greatly appreciated. But, you know, it's just, Wednesday evenings are kind of bad for me, but if it really comes to round, we make whatever necessary arrangements I have to make.
They'll probably want to do it, I'm sure, before 4, you know.
After 2,
Before 4. Okay, so,
Let's say
yeah.
3 o'clock one day, is that?
That sounds great. That sounds really great.
3
Yes.
o'clock would probably be good any day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay, just pick out some dates.
Work around that.
forward to.
okay.
All right. I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion?
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Bye.
Thank you.